All right, we're here as the Lost Rider Podcast. Good morning and welcome to this weekend's edition of News from the Camp House. It's also brought to us by the Shaw's Bend Social Club. Country club folks who don't have a country club. All right, tell you what, we're here this weekend. We're actually at the moment, we're in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. But I am with documentarian and videographer Paul Fuzinski. And that's who we're going to speak with this morning. We're going to find out a little bit more about some of the business that he does and the pitfalls and, the contortions he has to do business-wise as far as taking care of his business. What's it actually take to put together a documentary? Paul, how you doing this morning?
Herman, I'm doing fantastic.
All right. Now, most recently, Paul's been in Texas. He's from Ohio. But most recently, he's been in Texas. He's been working with the executive editor of Texas Fish and Game magazine, and they put together a documentary on great white sharks on the Texas Gulf. And, we visited with Chester previously about it a little bit. But I want to know what it took to actually put that documentary together. What did it take? What were the mechanics, to get the information and put it all in a format that was entertaining and informative, for the public. So, Paul,
yes, sir.
Tell us a little bit about, how do you do this? How did you approach that particular project?
Well, the Great White Shark documentary was actually a lot of fun. I mostly have done in the past, big megafauna wildlife, North America. You got your elk and got your mule deer and all that fun stuff out west. And Great White Sharks was not on the agenda, but when you're dealing with Chester Moore, you never really know what you're going to get yourself into. And he said, hey, would you be able to go out to Cape Cod with me and film a Great White Shark documentary? And when someone asks you that question, you're insane if you say no, because it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to go do something like that. So, it was a lot of work to make a documentary like that. It ended up being close to 40 minutes long, and we interviewed some of the world's leading experts on great white sharks out there at Cape Cod. We went out on a boat. We were filming great white sharks. They didn't have cages, so we weren't able to get under the water, and we weren't allowed to bait them because it's not legal up there. But it was a lot of fun. We got to interview Dr. Greg Skomall, got to interview Dr. Megan Winton, who are two leading experts. And the coolest part for me was just seeing a great white shark in person. Not a lot of people can say that they've done that. And standing on a, huge ocean-going boat and looking over the side railing through a camera, seeing a 14-foot great white shark is pretty awesome. And, I would encourage everybody to go check it out on Chester's YouTube channel, Chester Moore, wildlife journalist, and it was a lot of fun.
All right, okay, you said you're not allowed to bait them, but how do you get where you see them? You go out in the ocean and you think you're going to go look for something. How do you get where you can see them?
It was actually pretty interesting. They had a pretty elaborate setup to spot the sharks. So what they do is they go out on the boat. They have scheduled pilots that fly over the shoreline. They go back and forth and they just look for great white sharks, and they can see them. And then they tell the boats where they're at. They kind of have a radio communication up to the airplanes, those little tiny airplanes you see, and they're flying above the ocean, and they just tell them where they're at. The boat gets there, and then once the boat locates the shark, you get close enough to it, and there's the scientists on board of the boat take up a drone, and they get video footage of the shark to see how it behaves around boats. Or it depends on what study they were doing. When we were there, they had a study they were doing, they would drive the boat up to the shark at full speed to see how the shark would react. And they were monitoring that on the drone to see how the sharks react to that, because they're kind of worried about sharks getting hit by boats. And yeah, it's a really interesting and elaborate process. And, you know, anybody that knows anything about airplanes knows they're expensive. So all that stuff costs a ton of money to run and do all that research. And, you know, it all, me being who I am, I had to ask, you know, Dr. Greg Skomal. I said, you know, how do they fund all this? And I don't remember the exact name. It was like the something bro act, which is a subset of the Dingell-Johnson Act. Okay. And so, you know, back to the North American model, something you talk about a lot, something I'm really interested in. Even the great white shark research is funded by hunter and fishermen. So you got to take that into account. I thought that was pretty epic, actually.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's cool. All right. So what did they figure out? What type of results? What have they learned from these studies?
So I asked them about that while I was there. I was like, you know, are you finding out that they're scared of the boats? And they basically said the sharks are having no reaction to the boats coming up on them, which is not a good thing. You know, if they get hit by a boat propeller or something, that's going to screw them up. So I don't know what became of that study. It's probably still ongoing. I think they said they were going to do that for a couple of years. Not quite sure where that ended up, but they also have a pretty unique system out there. I think it's called Shark Watch or Shark Alert or something. And it's actually, we saw it in action. You're on the boat, and we were on top of a great white shark that I was filming. And when they spot a shark in the water, they have a cell phone app or whatever. They press a button, and it says there's a shark here. And you watched on the beach, they have flags up and down the beach, and someone raised the flag saying that there was a shark right there, because there are surfers and people out swimming in the surf and stuff like that. So it's pretty interesting to watch the technology they have to alert people of sharks to keep them safe. I wish I could remember the name. Oh, it's called Sharktivity. That was the name of the app, Sharktivity. And anybody can do it. If you're out on a boat, you can say, hey, there's a shark out here, great white, and they'll put up a flag on the beach to alert the public. So I thought that was pretty neat.
All right. Okay, well, yeah, I would assume, you know, I think about it for a while, and it's like anything else, that at times, you know, they're great danger, and at times they may be no danger. And is you know, did you see any of that? Is that a result of any studies? Did they come up with any information about that type of stuff?
Well, I mean, you're dealing with an ocean predator, so there's always that risk that there's going to be something to happen, but it's no different than, you know, you and I were just out in grizzly country for 5 days. You know, they're wild animals, you know, they don't have to, you know, it's not like you or me. They don't have to have a reason. Sometimes they just get cranky, or you're in their spot and you don't want them to be. I don't know the exact science on that shark stuff. That's not something we really dove into, but it's just something that's like, you know, there's people out that go out there every day on the Cape Cod, and they're just on kayaks and paddle boards, and there's sharks swimming under them. There's hours and hours of footage on Instagram reels and stuff of people flying drones, and there's great white sharks right below people. They have no idea they're there. And I'd say probably just like grizzlies, 90% of the time, they don't do anything. They just kind of go away. They don't want to be around you. We probably rode past some out on the horses, and we didn't even notice.
Right.
You know, and they don't want anything to do with you. But then there's that, you know, small percentage of the time where you're wrong place, wrong time. They're hungry, or you're near a baby, or who knows what's going on. So it's just like any other wildlife. You want to be careful. And all I know is I wasn't going in that water with them. I'm not putting myself at risk for no reason. You know what I mean?
Right. Okay. All right. So, Cape Cod. All right. How many, you know, you said you saw one. How many do you reckon y'all filmed while y'all were out there?
So we only filmed one shark. But while we were out there, they spotted 5, 6. And we didn't drive. We weren't going that far up and down the coast. I mean, there's 5 or 6 of them that were spotted in that day, and I'm sure there's dozens of them out there at any given time. And they're pretty close to the beach. I mean, we were within a few hundred feet of the beach. So, I mean, they're prowling in shallow water looking for seals. And that was kind of a cool conservation success story, I guess, you know, on a side note. The seals, I guess, fishermen back in the day were wiping them out because they thought they were depleting their fish catches. and the populations collapsed. And that's kind of when I think they were getting a little more concerned about the sharks, because now they didn't have a food source. You know, they eat fish and stuff too, but these seals populations were wiped out, and now they're starting to make a comeback. So hence, there's more sharks showing up. So I thought that was pretty interesting, because I didn't know that about the seals. And we saw a ton of seals while we were out there. There was some stinky sons of guns out there. You could smell them 100 yards off the beach. They're just piled up on the shoreline. You're like, good Lord, these guys, they smell bad.
Really? No, I didn't have any. Yeah, people don't even think of that. But all right, I'll tell you what. Let's take a quick break and thank the folks who let us come on here every Saturday morning. We'll be right back.